Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video. So it's all about getting the F56 ready for its MOT so we can get it on the road and start using it. So I mean, it's in pretty good condition. Obviously you've seen in the last video the front end went on, so we've got the everything ready in terms of the exterior of the car ready for the MOT. So you can see it's got the front end, so we need to attach some number plates to the front grille. So that's done and ready to go. But one of the things I did notice, so the sort of road I live on, it's a nice little quiet sort of offshoot, so I took it for a little sort of 2-second test drive, and there is a little bit of an issue, so we'll talk about that now. And for those that aren't in the UK, what's an MOT? So it's like a legal test that each car after it's 3 years old has to have every 12 months that says it's still roadworthy. So because that's been in an accident, plus it's been off the road for a year, the MOT is now run out, so I have to get the car tested to make sure it's road legal before I can drive it. For those, just while we're walking past it, for those that haven't seen on social media, the R56 now is in bits, so I'm breaking that car. Probably become a shock to some of you, but I've had problems with the engine and a few other things, and it just, with having the F56 now and getting that sort of on the road a lot quicker than I thought, the R56 just wasn't going to be touched. So with having those issues I had with it, I thought, you know what, let's part the thing out, and it gives me lots of funds then to put into the F56. So most of that car is now gone, all the aftermarket parts. So there are obviously lots of OEM parts you can see on the shell. So some of those will be coming up for sale. So if anyone's interested in the UK, give me a shout and we can sort some deals on some of the OEM parts that are left on it. But let's head into the garage now. I'm going to splice in some video that I took in terms of some of the damage that I found underneath the F56 that's going to delay the MOT process, but we should be able to get that fixed and then get the car off for its MOT. After the last video, you obviously saw the F56 was on the wheels outside, side skirts fitted and things like that. Took it out for a little test drive, literally just on and off the driveway at the front of the house, just to see if we can find anything wrong with actually the way it drives, because I've literally moved it backwards and forwards in the garage and not really noticed anything, but obviously taking it that little bit further off the drive and back on, I got a few warning lights. So all the ones that I had around tyre pressure all resetted and were fine. What I did get back was a stabilisation warning. Literally as soon as I drove a couple of metres, the warning would come on. So I pulled the car straight back into the garage and got it up in the air. And it turns out there's actually some suspension damage to the car as well. So I'll show you in a second, but from what I can work out, the accident was in the front passenger corner, and it looks like the car has been hit in that corner and pushed towards the driver's side and maybe into a curb, because the wheels, can you see? Yeah, you can't really see. So the wheels basically have a mark across them, and there was a little bit of damage on the tyre in a straight line across both wheels. And it looks like that's been pushed into a curb and then has bent some of the arms on the suspension. So the struts seem to be okay and some of the other bits seem to be okay. But on the rear, I'll show you them at the moment, they're bent like a banana, and that's the rear control arms. So they literally should be straight and they sort of curve like a banana. So I'll put that in over me talking now. Then we've got the front arm. So I've got underneath and put a metal rule on it and wobbled it to see if there's any bends in the actual arm itself. And on the passenger side, it's pretty much dead straight. There's a tiny little bend, but I think that's naturally in it. I don't think it's 100% straight part. However, on the driver's side, so the same side that the rear control arm is really bent, the driver's side front lower wishbone is actually bent as well. So there's a natural weakness built into those parts, and they're both bent at that natural weakness basically. Okay, so just to bring you underneath for a bit of an update. So this is the wishbone we need to replace. Let's zoom it out a bit. So this is the wishbone we're replacing. So first of all, started off the back here. There's one bolt here, one bolt that actually goes through the subframe there. Then if you undo this with a couple of 8mm, you can see we've got 2 bolts there. So they're all these E14. So I've put those in order of where I've taken them from, so don't forget. So they're E14 Torx socket. So that's that. Then there was a little 8mm holding this on. I'm assuming this is what potentially detects what's out of whack. So that was a little 8mm just through the top here, holding that in place. Then here, this is obviously the lower joint that needs to come off. Now there's a bolt that goes through here, and it's the E14 Torx bit on one side and a 17mm on the other. So I've undone that as well. So the only thing left to do is this bush up here, which looks like I'm going to have to come into it from this side, from the engine side, and potentially use some spanners to undo that, because it's just a big long bolt that goes through the middle of, so it's basically this part here. It goes through the middle of that. So I've just got to get that undone. Then I'm hoping it shouldn't take too much work to actually get this lower arm out. And if it does come out as easy as that, I'll be well impressed, because that's a super easy and simple fix to get that piece repaired. Or get that piece swapped out, should I say. Okay, so just to give you an idea of how I'm having to get this out. So where I talked about there's the this bolt through the subframe here, or sort of inside the subframe. So you can see there's a little cutout. If I bring this back a bit, you can see in there, there's another E14 Torx bit. I'm hoping that I should be able to get it's just from this side, and there's nothing from the back side, hopefully. But what I've had to do to try and get my impact gun in is put extension after extension after extension, which gives me just enough flex away from the lower side of the engine to be able to get my impact gun in. So I'm going to try and get that bolt out now. Okay, so you see in there now, that's where the bolt, the E14 was coming out, and it's a big long bolt. So it's this sort of long, and it goes all the way through. So I'm hoping this is out now. I'm not going to be able to take it out on... Could you try again? Ignore Siri. So that big long bolt is out now. So I'm not going to be able to do it on camera. But I'm hoping, with a bit of persuasion, maybe a little tap with a mallet here, what I'm expecting is, this is like a pinch joint, so I think that separates enough to lower that. We've obviously got this rear end all completely out, so the 4 bolts are out of that. So what I'm doing is just comparing it to the new piece and just checking all the points where it joins, and everything so far seems to be out, and this is the only bit I can see that would be an issue, and that's in here. You can see the top of it poking out just there. So I'm hoping this is literally just a pinch joint, and taking the bolt out should loosen it enough. So I think just a tap with a mallet, and this should now drop out. So I'm going to try that now off camera, and I'll show you the results. Okay, so you can see with a bit of persuasion, we managed to get that out at that end, so that's good. So there's no bolt holding this in now, no bolts at the back. So in my brain, I've got to bring this down enough to then pull it out this way. So this has just got to drop below the disc. Worst case, I might have to take the disc off, but I don't think so. I think I should be able to see if there's enough flex to just bring this down enough to get it under there, and then everything should pull outwards towards the outside of the car, so the driver's side. So you're putting it towards like the brake calipers and stuff like that. I'm going to give that a try now. Okay, so as this part is already damaged, what I'm doing is using these little circles down here and getting a hammer and sort of hitting it in, and it is slowly, bit by bit, this is coming out and heading this way, which is the way we want it to go. So we've managed to get this out and down and below, literally just by pushing the weight down and rotating this round. So all I'm going to do now is just keep tapping it here, and obviously this part's damaged, so I'm not too worried about any further damage. This may not be I'm sure there'll be a mechanic out there telling me there's an easy way of doing this, but when I'm on the ground, on my back doing it, this seems to be the best way to get this out at the moment. And there you go, you can see that's out, so that should, there you go, there's a bit of a wiggle, you see all the things I've got down here, get that out. So that's that damaged suspension part out. I can have a bit of a look around now. There doesn't seem to be any damage to that. That looks pretty solid. All this looks okay. Drive shafts look okay. Suspension struts and tie rod arms all look okay. So I'm hoping, unless the only thing I don't know about is this anti-roll bar, but knowing the way they work, I don't think they're bolted down. So there would be some movement side to side. So if it did get shunted that way, I don't think there'd be too much damage because of obviously all the rubber joints and everything. But so far, it looks to be just that I've missed in terms of damage. So that's really good news so far. So I'm going to get the new part in, just a complete reverse to what I've just done to take it out. Okay, so next up we've got the rear control arms. So you can see the pink pen on those where they're damaged. And if I put the new one in next to it, you can see how bent the one above it that's currently fitted is. So we need to get that out. So looks like we've got a couple of bolts either end that we need to take out. So these are E14. This has got an E14 on the back with a nut on the front. So this washer here, I think we need to mark because that controls some of the adjustment on the rear of the car. So I'll mark those with a white pen as well, just to make sure we don't lose them. But looking at this currently, it shouldn't be too hard. Fingers crossed, I know, famous last words, but it shouldn't be too hard to swap those out. So let's take a look. You can see from the rear of the car, I've just marked that wash, and I might do it actually the other side as well, because I've not took these off to know exactly where they need marks. So I've used just like a Chinograph pencil for now, just to mark those, to give me some reference points. Okay, so you can see we've got that bolt out. So this is the back of the car. That bolt was on there, so that's an 18mm, and then you've got the E14. And that's that rear control arm off the car. There you go, well, not off the car, but out of the hub end. Then you've got this end, which looks like it's just, can you get to the back of it? I'll put my fingers through to see. Not quite sure on that one. I'll need to check whether we've got to drop this plastic off and get to the back of it, or whether this just pulls straight out. So I'll double check and let you know. Okay, so that makes sense. So you can see here, that's like that. There's an 8mm screw there. You sort of bend this heat and the plastic out the way. And I can't quite show it on the camera, but behind here, where I'm poking my finger now, there's another 18mm bolt. So exactly the way the front one's held, just the opposite way round. So this time we need to get our E14 on this side and an 18mm spanner on the back to hold the bolt in place. So let's do that now. Okay, so to get this inner bolt out, it is quite tight. So I've just had to use sort of a wobbly end on the E14 here. Then on the back, I've really had to hold this in because there's not enough room back here for a big long bolt, which my sort of impact drivers are, and not bolt, sorry, socket are. So I've had to use that. Maybe if you had one of those angled spanners, maybe that would work. So it is a little bit tight to get that one off. So it's something that I don't see mentioned a lot in instructions, but yeah, it's definitely tight. But this one's out now, so I'm just going to keep rotating this and pulling it this way, because obviously it's got the weight of this on it. So I might even try without the camera lifting this up. There you go, you can see I've got them off the car, and you can see just how bent the one on the car was. So yeah, that's completely, look at it, the damage on it. So we've got that brand new one to go on the car. So it's a bit dusty because it's been under the car while I've been doing the bolts, but it is brand new. So we get to chuck that on the car. So looking at this, the open end faces downwards, and you'll see the ends are slightly thicker on one side than the other, and that matches up with the OEM one as well. So just make sure when you're refitting yours that you put them the right way. I'm literally reversing the steps to take it off. So put that bolt back in. Haven't done it all the way tight yet, so I've got some flexibility. I'm not putting pressure on the rubbers to start with, and then I'm just putting this in place here. So you can see that he's just about to go in. I need a bit of persuasion to be able to get it to line up, so I'm just going to do that off camera because I need both hands. Okay, so one of those things the aftermarket may not tell you. So there's lots of instructions on how to fit like adjustable control arms, which is what I've been using. Is that once you go to put this bar back in, there's not enough flex in that hub to be able to bend it forward to put that bolt through at the bottom. So what I did, was put this one in without the bolt, but put this screwdriver in just to hold it in place. Then make sure this is lined up as well, so it's in, but it won't be lined up with this hole. I've then got a flathead screwdriver put on top of where the hole would be, but isn't lining up currently. Put pressure on that, and then hit this side with a rubber mallet until the smallest of gap comes in and the screwdriver pushes in. You're then able to flex or bend that screwdriver enough to be able to feed the bolt through the back here, so towards the front of the car, coming towards the back. So that was a little trick that I learned. I think some other tips I was given online, so thank you, Andy Mullen, for that, is that this, you could strap this strut to the strut over there on the other side of the car and pull them together with like ratchet straps. So that's one way of doing it as well, to be able to pull this inwards to be able to line up the bolts. There's a couple of different methods you can use. Luckily, I've managed to get those bolts back in. Okay, so I've got the passenger side one off, and there is, I don't know whether it's even superficial damage. There may be a tiny little kink. I mean, obviously I've got it off now and I've got the new one, so I might as well chuck it on. I think there's definitely damage. You can see it's been sort of scraped and bent, but I don't know whether that's just this lower edge rather than the whole thing. But I've got a new one, so I'm going to chuck it in anyway, just to make sure that there 100% is no issues with the rears. So I'm going to throw this one exactly the same as I did the other side. So let's get on with that. Okay, so you can see under the car now we've got the two new control arms in place. So I just need to go and check over all the bolts just to make sure I've done everything up tight. Then the wheels can go back on. Front arm, there was one bolt I forgot to do, the pinch bolt, so I just need to go and do that up to make sure that's all okay. And then we should be okay. Hey, good morning everyone. So I'm literally just about to take the F56 over to the MOT station. So a friend's going to pick it up on a trailer and drop it off over there. Hopefully we pass the MOT, so I've gone through everything I can. There's no warning lights, no nothing. So if we get that thumbs up from the MOT station, we can instantly get it taxed online and insured and drive it home. So fingers crossed, the next video is me driving this back from the MOT station. So keep everything crossed for me, and hopefully we'll see you in about 2 hours time.